So, guys, what do we think about the spiced Coca-Cola?
My iPad.
I've not tried it. I've heard it's
What?
stupid.
I
What
know
is
what all
this?
of those words mean individually, but
What?
I've never heard of
heard
this.
What do you think? What spice do you think is flavored in the spiced Coca-Cola?
I've heard
What?
it's not spiced. I've heard it's just like raspberry.
That's right. You guessed it. Raspberry.
What?
Yeah, spiced Coca-Cola is flavored with raspberry.
That's what
That's
makes
what makes it spicy.
What is happening right now? I'm very confused. Like, to a point that I'm not sure if we can leave this in. I have no idea what is happening. What is a spiced Coca-Cola? What are you talking
Why
about?
would you just assume that we know what that means? Is it in the news or something?
No, it's a real thing. It's in grocery stores. If you buy any groceries, you would probably see it.
If you've watched any form of television in the last month,
I've been watching television constantly for the past month and seen nothing of the sorts.
Oh, yeah, I just read books with pictures in them, so I don't even know.
Has it been playing during all of like March Madness?
yeah,
I've been watching March Madness and not seen a single Coca-Cola ad.
yeah, Coca-Cola is one of the bigger sponsors for March Madness.
Jarrett, are you pranking us? Did you just
No,
bring
this
up
is-
a random
this is
thing?
very
No,
real.
this is a thing.
I'm searching.
You
this
can
up.
Google it.
It's not what today's episode's about, but it's a thing.
It is not. So we may just want to forget and move on.
Yes.
Speaking of forgetting and moving on, today's episode, guys, I am so stoked for this. I talked about it last time, and I actually made a mistake in last time's recording. It's every 7-ish episodes because this is going to be episode 8. But about every 7 episodes, we like to get off of the list and talk about an album of ours that's one of our favorites. And today's is "Forget Not Slow Down" by Relient K.
Which technically you're not wrong. We did 7 episodes, and now we're doing this, which
Yeah.
is still correct.
But I said last time that it was going to be our 7th episode.
Oh,
So-
okay. I see what you're saying.
Numbers are a social construct
I can
anyway.
feel my
You don't gotta-
brain melting.
So it was a mistake. And speaking of mistakes, want to ask you what you feel comfortable with on this public podcast. What is your worst mistake?
Oh, I'm having some Forget flashbacks.
Well, legally, I'm not allowed to talk about it at this point. It's still,
Still pending.
in the courts. It's but probably I sing in the shower sometimes. That's just the flaw that. Yeah, I don't like to bring it up a lot because it's kind of embarrassing. But and I think I work too hard, care too much about people,
That's your worst mistake.
and that's why I feel like I'm a good fit for this job at Wendy's.
Hired. Let's go.
Yes.
Your frosting machine's never broken, I bet.
I always got Frosties just filling up my jean pockets, man. I'm always ready.
What? Does that even
It's
mean?
messy, but I also carry napkins. So somebody else want to go? I sort of spiraled down there. I should work some of that out in therapy. But
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
not
Dan,
funny.
Jason, what you got?
Wow, worst mistake is tough.
So I'm the kind of person that I generally just like leave stuff in the past behind. So like the ones that are legal to say on this podcast, I can't think of any.
Oh, I've
Like,
got mine.
Go for it, Dan.
don't
I'm trying
confess to
think
any
through it.
atrocities.
All right,
This is-
so it was while I was in Ghana, and I wouldn't say it was my worst mistake, but like it's clean enough for this podcast. So I had some time while we were in Ghana when we were in the northern city of Tamale to have my own lunch and just kind of chill. And what I had for lunch was some leftovers from a place we had goat meat at, which was super good, and it was spiced super well. It's really
with
good.
raspberries.
Go
No,
Donalds.
not with raspberries. And I ate this with my hands because I didn't have any plasticware or silverware with me.
Oh.
and this goat meat was pretty spicy. And I
know
had
where
a
this
lot
is
of
going.
water, and I proceeded to go use the restroom.
As you should.
And this sensation lasted for like 3.5 hours.
Oh man.
Wow.
My goodness.
I'm
It's like a
texting a guy
trip.
that I'm with, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
thought something else had happened, and I couldn't even begin to think what might have happened that I was burning.
Man.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
Oh man.
Pretty big mistake.
I've been there.
Now you're on the goat pod, so it sounds like
Yeah.
you're reconciled.
Yes. And what's crazy
Species.
is I washed my hands before.
Yeah. Steven, do you remember when we went to Buffalo Wild Wings with Drew back when we went to Florida and we all got the spiciest wings and died?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It was fun and like goofy in the moment, but like 24
It
hours
hurt.
later,
Yeah.
I think that
it's the
Getting
yin and
me-
yang of life.
this got me on the track to remember a bad mistake, because I was going to go with, this is not a worst mistake, but this week I was preaching at my church, and one of my slides was supposed to say, and we are fishers of men, but it just said, and some of us are fishmen.
At least it didn't say, and some of us are fish.
like mermen?
Yeah, kind of like mermaid.
Barnacle
yeah.
Boys?
But no,
We're people.
I was in Guatemala, and when you're there, you need, like, if you're not from there, like, the water's fine there unless you're not from there because you're just not used to all the things. So they're like, hey, don't drink any of the like tap water kind of stuff. Drink from bottled water. Well, the morning before we left, I accidentally just, while brushing my teeth and stuff, took a couple big swigs of water, and I was like, oh, hopefully that won't be a problem. Well, we went to the airport, and we were in the airport for like 13 hours. Longer story for why we were there. We knew we were going to be there that long, but it was just a mess. So I took a nap, and I wake up from my nap in a hot sweat, and I go to the bathroom, and the mistake was cleared very quickly. But while I'm there, they're like, yo, we got to go. We got to go through security right now. We got to get through the gates. And I'm like in the zone, right, making
Fight or flight.
money moves in that bathroom. And they're like, we got to go. So luckily I was able to finish in time. But the rest of that day was an uneasy
So two
feeling.
things. You were making money moves. Did you pay someone in the bathroom? That seems sketchy.
If I could have paid somebody
The
to
second
take
thing-
this curse from me, I would have.
You did not just compare that experience with the experience of Jesus Christ. on
No,
the
that's why I said
So
curse,
I think
not
he's
cup.
comparing it to the Green
Take this-
Mile.
Okay. Okay. But I actually I remembered one, like a serious one, while you guys were talking. And it was like when it was single digits. I wasn't, I was a kid. And we were at Outback.
1 to 9.
Yeah. Or 0. But we were at Outback, and with my family, it was just my brothers and my mom. And whenever I get a straw with the wrapper on it,
Yeah.
I always do that thing where I take it
Take
off.
the wrapper off?
And no, I take part of it off, but I leave like half of it on so I can blow it at my brothers.
Yeah.
And it like has
Oh,
this
yeah.
projectile. Yeah. So I was trying to do that, and this time I missed, and it went straight by my brother, and it hit the back of some bald guy's head in the other booth. And
Is that why
normally
you're
that-
bald now?
yeah, I was gonna say
were cursed.
that's karma for what I did. But normally that would be like I wouldn't remember that. But as soon as I hit that guy's bald head, I can't stress how bald his head was. Their whole family at that booth just got up and left. I felt like
Because
so
of
guilty,
you?
but also powerful that I could make that happen. But it turns out,
You really blew him away.
okay, yeah.
Where's
But
the drum track?
But then the waitress came over and like praised me for doing that. She was like, "Oh, that was amazing! Thank you for doing that. That guy was an ass." So I saved the day. Actually,
And you were
Wow.
like, what's an L?
I was just happy for the attention.
Yes.
Wait, here it is. Up. Play live. There it is. There, yeah.
That was a lot of build up for.
Wasn't working.
We'll
Fix it in post.
I really hope that for some reason it doesn't come through in the audio and I have to like edit something in. Oh my gosh.
Well, man,
so for
what are
me,
we talking about today?
So real quick. So one of my worst mistakes, which is how it ties into how I know about this album, is one time when I was in high school, I got myself involved in a love triangle. And I say that it did not involve me. I involved myself into it. And I had a crush on this girl who was already kind of seeing this other guy who was one of my friends. And I tried to get involved and be like, I'm the better fit. And it did not work. Backfired tremendously. And in the falling out of those friendships, I found this album, which is now one of my favorites. And let's go ahead and dive into it. So we're talking about Relient K. And actually, before we even really get into the album, I want to open it up to y'all. Do y'all have any? Oh, I know some of us do. Do y'all have any like personal histories with Relient K?
I think I might have.
Okay.
I was introduced to Relient K when we were in the process of recording our first, or the first podcast that Jarrett, Jason, and I were a part of. That was the first time I'd ever heard of the name Relient K. And I think at the summer camp that we grew up at, they played some Relient K songs during like dodgeball.
Gotcha.
Particularly, Forget and Not Slow Down. I remember hearing before. But beyond that, that's my history.
So I've seen the lead singer. I think his name is Matt. But we go back. I saw him shirtless outside of his trailer one time. And to be fair, so did Jarrett.
Yes, but, I've seen them live with Steven and with Jason.
Yeah, but we've seen them. We have that intimate experience.
Yeah, and I asked him for scissors.
Yeah, that was even weirder than the shirt thing, actually. Other than that, I've listened to you. You introduced me to them, and they're really good. So I've got some experience there.
Yeah, I'd say I know this guy named Jarrett, and he said, "Hey, listen to this band." So I did, and that's my personal history with this band. So I think that explains everything you need to know.
That was very concise.
Dope.
Word, yeah. Well, I'm glad I could introduce y'all to this band because coming from that mistake I mentioned earlier, it opened me up to this band, to Matt Thiessen, lead singer, the songwriter, and essentially, whether you listen to this album or any other albums by them, it's very personal and it's very like, how is this guy writing what I'm feeling and writing what I'm thinking about? For most of the time. And so I'm really happy to talk about this album, and let's go ahead and dive into it. So we've got Forget Not Slow Down. This is their 6th studio album, released October 9th, 2009. This is the first album we're actually talking about that's like both a band that is active or was active like during our time, and that this was released during like when we're all alive and aware of what's going on in the world. And so this is
Brittany's still active though.
Well, yes.
Don't leave her out. She's happening.
Yeah. But ... Baby One More Time was when we were like 2 and just about to be born. So
Yeah.
I think we're all born.
That's when I peaked, man.
I think it came out in January of '99.
Yeah,
We're born.
Jason was not
No,
born
I was
in January.
not if it was January.
Yeah. But anyways, so personnel, band members, we got Matt Thiessen, as I said. He's on lead vocals and guitar, piano. And then Matt Hoops, so 2 Matts, on guitar. John Schneck playing electric guitar. John Warren, so we got 2 Matts, 2 Johns. John Warren plays the bass. And then we got Ethan Luck on drums. And producer for this album is Mark Townsend. who is a former guitarist for DC Talk, and Jennifer Knapp from the Christian World. And he was a member of Zilch, which is now Sonic Flood. If you're aware of any Christian music, started a lot of stuff there. And then Matt Thiessen also co-produces this album. They recorded it in March and April of 2009 at Dark Horse Studios in Franklin, Tennessee, which, if you know anything about Dark Horse, a lot of famous albums recorded there. So this is a very popular studio, and I would say a beautiful one, because it's secluded in the woods. And that would be, if I had to choose, I would say that would be my favorite place to record, is just somewhere out in the woods, nice log cabin, and yeah, have a good time. So it was recorded at Dark Horse, and then also Mark Townsend's studio. If you catch the Phil Collins little adode there. Adode?
I thought you were stuttering.
No, it's just a studio. So I think it's Sissa Studio by Phil Collins is the reference.
I see.
So and the little background for this record is that this is essentially a breakup album. Matt Thiessen had a fiance prior to this being recorded, and they broke up. And so Thiessen essentially just sequestered himself into a cabin early 2009 and wrote everything that we have on this album. And yeah, so Daniel, can you hit us with this track listing of what's going on in this album?
Absolutely. And the track listing that I am going off of is going to be from the Spotify playlist or Spotify tracks. For those of you that will ever watch this, it might just be the four of us. I will put up brackets or parentheses in reference to songs that are not on the original album track listing, but we'll get right into it. I don't even know if I had seen the pre-G.O.A.T track Sahara, but it ends up being, not a part of this album on Spotify, so we're just gonna go past that. Anyways, you have the single, the headliner, "Forgetting Not Slow Down" at number 1. "I Don't Need a Soul," "Candlelight," "Flare" outro, "Part of It" outro, "Therapy," "Over It," Sahara. Oh, there is Sahara. Well, okay. "Oasis" intro, "Savannah," "Baby" outro, "If You Believe Me," "This Is the End," "If You Want It." And then on here it says bonus tracks from the original album. But on Spotify, it's just part of the album. "Terminals," produced by Adam Young of Owl City. And "Where Do I Go From Here?" Acoustic, which is from the B-side of, or the B-side to The Birds and the Bee sides.
Yeah.
There's a reference in there that I don't get. But here we are.
Yeah, there is the album, or in quotation marks, album before this one was The Bird and the B-Sides, which was like their last recording for whatever label they were on. And the original version is from that. And so this is just a B-side from that B-side album. So I guess technically it would be a C-side. But yeah, awesome. So why don't we go ahead and get into some lyrics and themes here. I do find it interesting. There's a lot of, like, you don't really, hold on, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Let's just dive into lyrics and themes.
Let's do it. That's me, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
I had to scroll down.
It can be.
Yeah, it's not all. I had to scroll down a little bit, but I didn't catch like a lot of the specific lyrics. But as I was listening to it, I had the Spotify like lyric thing playing, and like Jarrett has already said, it's really personal, and you can tell it's coming from that place of breaking up and what he was going through at the time. But actually, I didn't know that specifically that's where the album was coming from until you were saying it. But it's definitely apparent. My favorite lyrics that are on a song that what am I trying to say? The song with the best lyrics that I liked was Part of It, I think.
Yeah.
because that one, I like the lyric about nightmares.
Okay.
But it was something, but it was like happy though.
Mhm.
It was like when the no, when is it? Oh shit,
If a nightmare ever does unfold, perspective is a lovely hand to hold.
that's it. That's it. That was such a good way of saying that, and it that's something that stuck out for me with the lyrics. But does anyone else have some stuff to say about that?
I think it's just it's an album that is very much lyric focused. There are some sections of songs that are very simple to allow the lyrics and the melodies to kind of take focus. It's also not an album if you don't like verbose lyrics. He has a lot of words to say. It doesn't ever feel like overwhelming, but it's definitely you don't get to the end of any songs in this album and been like, okay, cool, he had like 3 phrases he said. It's like, no, he's telling you an entire story in every single song.
It's not your average worship song.
Yeah, but doing it without feeling like, oh, he was just like reading something to me.
Yeah, I came from a place of like he had stuff to say and he really wanted to have that expressed.
Yeah. I think it's every time I listen to this album and give it space and then come back to it, there's always something that stands out or like I didn't catch before. And I think that's something with the lyrics where you have your general formulas for songwriting, and Thiessen does that and more. Like there's always something where it's like you have verse, chorus, verse, and then like a not even like a pre-chorus, but like some different part, and then chorus or something to like throw you for a loop. And I think that's one of the things that makes this album interesting.
Yeah, a lot of artists can sometimes get too caught up like with the form and the structure and sort of rely on that, but you can tell that it's really coming from the heart when you abandon the conventionalities of how it's supposed to go in favor of like having this thing that you want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he very well could have just said like I'm going to write a song or a few songs about a breakup, but this whole album is about that experience. And I know he said somewhere that when he was recording, it was nice to be like sequestered and completely alone in a cabin, because then you could just have this thought in your head all day and not be interrupted by like whatever's going on in life. Like you can think about this one thing and write about it to the fullest extent. And I think that's obviously what we see in these lyrics. So cool. Any other lyrics and themes?
The journey that's taken on this album is amazing. It's fun for me. Like I was talking to Jason earlier this week about how this is an album that feels closest to something that was written for me. And based off of some of the people that are a part of it, like Adam Young being a part of it from Owl City. I mean, I grew up on a lot of Owl City at summer camp, and you get into some of these real topics that the amount of pain that has to happen to sequester yourself to be able to write about it is crazy. And the strength to come out of it with this is incredible.
Yeah.
I think it also it shows some like I guess just skill as an artist, but also just courage and emotional maturity to be able to take that pain. And then because the overall, if you just listen to the music of it, it's there's parts of it that are like just like pretty punk rock and sort of happy. I don't know if that's the right word, but definitely not the melancholy and sorrow that he was probably experiencing. But he was able to turn that into something more positive.
Yeah. I think the core of this record comes in the songs Therapy, Over It, and Sahara, where you have lyrics like and therapy. I never thought I'd be driving through the country just to drive with only music in the clothes that I woke up in. And I never thought I'd need all this time alone. It goes to show I had so much, yet I had need for nothing but you. And then over it, I'll admit to who I am the day I come to understand I haven't got a clue. And just like how he needs to like go through this experience, not even like needs to go through it, but he goes through this experience and he has to reckon with what has just happened and reckon with the fact that this relationship is done. Not even like in shambles, like you can put the pieces back together. But it's like, he can't, it's done. And then I think Sahara is probably the closest we get to seeing a little bit of the picture in the background of how this came about. Where's it at? A lion on his side. Was it the lying or his pride which brought him down? Which is just so clever. One, because like a lion, you know, a group of lions is a pride. But then for the lion,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. But like, was it the lying or his pride, his selfishness that brought him down? And so we don't know the full extent, the full story of how we got here. But I think that those core pieces of those songs are the core of how this record pretty much goes and is put together.
Was his his ex-fiance, was her name Savannah?
I think it was Stephanie. I could be wrong. I'm sure it's on. You can
close
Google
enough.
it. So Savannah is the town in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia.
Oh.
I gotta say, one of the most real, I mean, just stripped away moments that grabbed me, especially, and I'll say this throughout this whole project, a lot of my takes are from first listen. And then getting to look back and see some of these lyrics. In This Is the End, the line goes, "So think real slow, don't forget that yes is a yes and no is no. About the way you want to go, because I may forget the way to come back home. This is the end if you want it."
Yeah.
That's just like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, if 16-year-old me looks at this, it's just like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh man, yes is yes, no is yeah. We get it. Yeah. And 26-year-old me is sitting here going, holy Moses, our actions, our decisions, our convictions mean something.
Yeah. Because, you know, it's one thing when you're a teenager and you make a mistake and you ruin a friendship. It's like, well, when you're a teenager, things are in flux all the time. But, you know, 10 years later now, it's like, oh, because I've done this or this thing has happened, like this whole litany of things cascaded from that. And have been affected
when
by
those
that.
relationships are ending,
Yeah.
how you end them,
yeah,
it affects your trajectory as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't recognize any of this stuff, or I couldn't appreciate it when I was a teenager. I just liked that it rhymed. And I didn't have a lot of depth back then. But
the music is so good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of music, if we want to get into some musicalities, unless someone else has anything on lyrics and themes.
Well, I found an article of somebody who hated this album.
Oh, yeah.
This is back in 2009. And
it's a financial crisis.
It's on a blog called punknews.org.
Oh, awesome.
And this is from somebody that clearly loved Relient K's earlier stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and just
for
how
sure.
fast and metal it was and how punk it was. And there's a line in here that I want to read to y'all. It's hilarious. And it's,
oh man,
he's talking about how the desert songs, Oasis and Savannah, sound like childish concept songs, is like the ending of one of these paragraphs. And he goes in, the reviewers, it's like, I'm not even going to say this. It's a tag. It's a handle. So if you guys want to look up punknews.org's Relient K, forget to not slow down review, but feel free. But it goes, the rest of the record is made of piano-driven ballads, heavily influenced by the likes of 90s adult alternative pop rock. Candlelight is probably the most boring song I haven't heard in church, and even though part of it has got Thiessen's great vocals, it remains cheesy. And then he goes,
Man.
this is the end, starts slower but ends up a great pop punk song. Thiessen is a master at doing this kind of thing. And you know, he does change Thiessen's writing, it changes the mood, the rhythm, the feeling so effortlessly as you listen to this album. But it was so funny. Like I've seen, you know, we're listening to some of the best albums or some of the most sold albums ever made. And the second we hop off that list, I'm finding so much of, like, at least this is an entire article of something. This dude hates this album.
Well, it's just, I think it's so funny. Like, that dude clearly is like, you can only do one type of music ever on always. Yeah. And so he's like, it's almost like he doesn't actually dislike the songs. It's that he only likes one type of song, and every song wasn't that type.
I think maybe he had some deeper issues that he was probably going through. Then you know, he probably really bonded with the previous stuff, but he doesn't like change.
Did you write this album?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm not saying. Well, he probably had his, article. He probably had his reasons, and you know, he was just going through something when he was in high school, and you know,
well, Steve's really apologetic for this article.
yeah,
Jason, it's really neat that you say that bands should only do one thing. The head, like the first paragraph of this dude's article is, evolution does not always bring positive changes, no matter what Charles Darwin taught the world. The new Relient K album is proof.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
And then the ending is like, I'm quite sad writing this. So if evolution fails, I'm quite sad writing this. I miss the times of chapstick, chapped lips, and things like chemistry and mood rings, but I guess it's probably just me missing some great memories that Relient K used to bring in their songs. I'm thinking like, holy cow, this album speaks to me.
Yeah.
in every possible way.
You said this was Punk News?
Punknews.org,
yeah. So he's definitely really interested in pop punk, which is where they started.
Yes.
And this is definitely, I mean, even the Bird and the B-Sides before this was a departure from the pop punk stuff, but that's funny.
No, I think it's an interesting thing because, like, personally, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm a bigger fan of their other albums over this one.
Fair.
Sorry to stab you in the heart there, Slush. But
it's okay.
but
I know,
but it's like, as soon as you realize, like, that's not what they're doing, it's like, dude, why are you harping because he's not doing what he's not doing?
At that point, reset.
I have a buddy of mine, and I won't name it or whatever, but he does some videos like reviewing worship songs and different things.
Oh yeah.
And he reviewed one because some like Christian site put it up as like popular Christian songs, and it's a song from Dear Evan Hansen that some Christian artist recorded a cover of.
Oh, okay.
And so he was
obviously
reviewing
it's a worship song now.
Well, no, he was reviewing it. And he's like, "This is a terrible worship song. Why? This has nothing to do with God. It doesn't say anything." And it's like,
You're
dude,
right.
if you'd done like half a second of research,
it's
not. It isn't. You're right. You're correct. This isn't a worship song. This is the middle of a musical that has nothing to do with God.
That's funny.
Yeah,
but it's fun to be upset at stuff. So
yeah, so
I'm not defending him.
No, but I have that same vibe with this guy's article. It's like, fine, cool, but let's review it for what it is, not for what it's not.
Yeah,
right.
Not what we were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it is interesting. Like I mean, I understand that argument. I think there is a degree of evolution in artists or bands discography where it's like, okay, we went off the deep end. Our buddy Noah and I were talking about Hawk Nelson earlier, and how like first with original singer all pop punk, and then new singer completely like adult contemporary. And so when you go from like one genre to another one, like that can be upsetting, and you know it is like frustrating. But then when you have this, Relient K is a slow evolution. Like it's all rock. Like you go from solid like early punk and then pop punk, and now we're getting into the alternative realm. It's like, okay, yeah, like there is an evolution, but we shouldn't. I feel like if you go like 2009, first album came out 2000, you probably shouldn't still continue to sound like you were 9 years ago when you just graduated high school. Like there should be some growth there. Like
And
even like
it's-
Linkin Park that's on this list. Like their first two albums sound somewhat similar because they're both new metal, and then they go a different direction, but their DNA is still the same.
with one exception. So I feel like if a band can evolve like this, but you can usually tell if their heart is still in it and they're writing from a place of authenticity. And that's clearly true in this album for Getting Not Slow Down. But Linkin Park, their last album they were trying to get money and stuff, but
Hot take.
This one, he's put so much of his soul into it.
Yeah.
That you can't say that it's not authentic to him.
Yeah.
So do you think, Steven, that Beyonce's new country album that came out is from a place?
She sold out. She's trying to get some of that country music.
Oh man, cool.
Well, this ain't Texas.
Yeah. This ain't Hold'em either. Oh man, cool. Well, we got off track a little bit. Anything else dealing with the music?
Well, I think if you're afraid of evolution in music, don't listen to Rush at all. They evolved quite a bit and are still incredible. So, punknews.org, you can take that home with you.
I feel like they don't deserve a .org. They should be a .com or something like that.
.eu.
Yeah.
Take them down a dot.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to put out here to y'all and whoever is listening is that if you're interested in having the exact same guitar tone as this album, Matt Hoops, the guitarist, has a company called 1981, and he's just put out a pedal called LVL Level that's exactly this guitar tone, but in one pedal. So he had, whatever setup his was, whatever his board was, amps and all that, he's put that all together into one pedal that he is selling on his website on 1981. It's either .com or .org. I'm now confused,
Nice.
But yeah. So if you're interested in that,
If you
that
just
is
search
available.
up 1981 pedals, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll come up.
The search engines will direct you in the right direction.
And if not, targeted ads will.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I really enjoy this guitar tone, so I will probably buy that at some point with my fun money.
I think looking at guitar tone leads us nicely into musical nidities, and I have one. There's plenty. Actually, I guess I have two. One's a musical nidity, and one's just a slight roast of the album because I feel like we need to have a little roast in the set.
Okay.
But I'll start with the musical nidity. All right, we are listening to a formerly / still pop punk type band. You have your instruments in there. You have your electric guitars, multiple of them. You have your bass guitar, which is well known for using a metal pick. You can hear that sound and that tone. You have your drum set. You have your keys that happen a lot of time. But one of the instruments is not like the other. Did anybody notice the interesting instrument in this album? This is open to the floor.
Is it the baseball bat?
Nope. There's the specific. It's like a legitimate instrument that is used, and it's actually used in a lot of their albums. Did anybody notice it?
So the intro music for Savannah, I didn't recognize that instrument. So
I think that was just a guitar. There's just a weird tone on it. But
I want to say it's a
you have it?
percussion instrument.
it is a percussion instrument. That is correct. But which one?
Oh, I don't remember.
This one would be the wrongly titled by many. It's not a xylophone. It is the glockenspiel.
Oh,
Hey.
Such a good instrument.
Such a good instrument. Also known as the bells. So if you ever hear bells or glockenspiel, it's not a xylophone. Xylophones are made of wood. They make a wooden sound. So your little nephew's little metal scale instrument, that is not a xylophone as much as they want to tell you.
they've lied to
It's
me.
big xylophone.
It's a lie.
Big xylophones out there trying to lie to you.
what songs do they use the Glocken?
The Glock was on
Speaking-
a couple different. Several of them were in.
Glockenspiel. Say the whole thing.
Were in,
You call it Glock. for sure.
were in several of the little intros and outros.
Yeah.
One that is
Yeah.
specifically like stands out a lot is in Flare.
Mhm.
You can hear it, but they do use it in a lot of big chorus parts. But what it is doing is it's actually doubling the electric lead lines. So it's a little bit harder to tell, especially in this album. If you listen to their other albums, it's a little clearer. But yeah, so it is interesting to see a pop punk band using the glockenspiel.
Yeah.
So
Man.
the more you know.
It's
The second
it's
thing I was
great.
going to say, and referencing an American icon, you got to have perfect plays, perfect players, but in this case, not so perfect production. This album, I think, I love the sound, and I sit through and listen to it, and I have to say, like, where is the production just the style, and where is it? Could it have been better produced? And I think there's several parts, several of the drum sections that I'm like, all right, you're overkilling some of the parts here. Your mix is a little interesting, and especially with an album that is so vocally focused, like we're trying to hear these lyrics. There's some parts that I think both the main vocal as well as the way that the harmonies are tracked. We could have done a little bit better on the mix with this production, and I think that's something we can even notice. Like as we listen to the greatest, most sold albums of all time, something that all of them kind of come together with is they're all produced to a crazy cool level. Even the older ones, like you don't have as much cool production equipment, obviously, in the 1960s, but I think even the producers of this album will say that the Beatles' production was better than theirs. But that's
Jason,
not
I
that's
think
not
you should,
anything but
You
that.
should start working at that punk website that we were talking about. You would,
You don't like the production? You
So-
like the production?
Interesting note on the mix part is that this actually was mixed by someone who is on who has mixed for other albums on this list, and that was Andy
Really?
Wallace. Yeah. So Andy Wallace, he's mixed a lot. But what comes to Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, he mixed.
that's a good one.
What else did he do? I forget what else he's on. You can look him up. But yeah, so that's
Well, it'll
one
be
interesting
interesting
thing
when we
tied to
get
the
there.
list.
Nirvana.
When we get to
Oh, yeah.
other ones on this list that were mixed by him, I wonder if I'll have a similar opinion. I might just not be a fan of what's his name. What did you say his name was again?
Mark Townsend.
No, you said
Oh,
there's
Andy
a
Wallace.
Andy Wallace. Because it was mainly mixed. I don't think it was like recording production. Like obviously, like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
album actually does a really good job with their mastering. Like the whole album fits really well. You don't have any tracks out of line or
Yeah.
feeling like they're separate. Like the mastering of the whole album's actually really really well done.
Gotcha.
I'm not
So I
smart
may
enough
just-
to notice any of that stuff.
That's why I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
Which also, I saw the producer Mark Townsend has some videos on his YouTube channel where he like takes like one song and shows you the mix for it. And I think Savannah, I think he has a video for Savannah if you're interested in that to see how all the different instruments come together. I want to say there's a baseball bat on that one. I know on Sahara there's one. There may be a trash can on Savannah. Random things here and there.
I don't understand how they would incorporate a baseball bat into.
In the
You
percussion.
bang it
hit
against
things
something?
with it.
Oh,
So, anyways.
nice.
Cool.
Come on.
All right.
All right. Any
We
other
wanna-
musical things, or are we good to jump into highlights?
I had something else. What did I have?
I don't know. What did you have?
I did run into an article of somebody that really loved this album.
Oh, yeah.
And
Was it written by Jarrett Slusher?
So no,
I didn't know how to write
Under a
back then.
pseudonym.
it's by Paul Huff on Medium.com,
yeah.
written in 2017.
P-Dog.
It's my stage
Aside
name.
from its context and emotional themes, Forget and Not Slow Down is remarkable for its diverse, organic musicianship. For the first time in the band's history, Relient K decided to forego using MIDI and software instruments, giving the LP a stripped-down indie feel. The
Yeah.
album manages to seamlessly blend elements of alt-rock, pop-punk with some sprinkles of folk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Man.
I'm so good at finding what other people have to say about our albums.
Well, speaking of what we have to say about the album, highlights. What stands out to y'all? We've talked a little bit about this, but what tracks or aspects of this album stand out to y'all?
It's not too long.
The exact opposite of Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
This was an
We're really
in-person
traumatized by that
conversation.
album.
This was an in-person conversation. That's good, Jason.
We needed a meeting about this one.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things about it is, one, I've already said this first one, but the way that he deals with such dark subject matter and turns it into something that is really beautiful and like meaningful, and also uplifting instead of downlifting, which is a word. But the other thing is, all these songs are really catchy while also being super meaningful and resonant in their substance.
Yeah.
So you can appreciate it on whatever. So that's why, I could appreciate it when I was in middle school, and I didn't know anything about anything, but and like you were saying, Jarrett, the more you listen to it over again, you catch new stuff. So
Yeah.
you can appreciate it on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
Another thing that was really cool about this album, and something that, this group has some Christian ties to it, and will have a lot of their stuff be reviewed up against and compared to other Christian albums, Christian artists. It debuted at number 15 on the Billboard 200.
Wow.
Back in 2009.
Wow.
And number 1 in Christian albums, number 2 in digital albums, number 4 in alt albums, and number 5 in rock albums. And maybe because 2009 was getting like towards the birth of the digital era, that it didn't have as many recorded sales as maybe some of the ones that are on our list, but it touched a bunch of different audiences.
For sure.
And a lot of that, I think, is having to do with what we've all said about, the music catches you, the lyrics mean something. Like, it has so many different elements that you can keep coming back to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I made the joke earlier, but I would say this is exactly the opposite of Brothers in Arms, where like, it's
Sisters and legs.
it's not too long. I was going to try to go past that one. Oh my gosh.
Technical difficulties.
Oh my gosh. It's not too long. It doesn't say the same thing over and over again. Jason's got to go. He's out.
Man of the cloth.
So, Jarrett.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, so it's not too long. He doesn't repeat himself over and over and over and over it again. And there's always something interesting, and whenever it builds to somewhere, and if it takes away to somewhere. It's not just like on repeat for 8 minutes. So it's,
Yes.
I really appreciate that. So, Jason, did you have any highlight?
Well, I think my highlight was my low light, and my other highlight was my musical thing. I love Glockenspiel.
That was deep.
Okay.
That's a
we love
big
Glockenspiel.
that's a big Glockenspiel fan over here.
Awesome. Cool. Well, before we get into any faves and least faves, this is only album we've come to so far that's had bonus tracks. I mean, we talked about Baby
No,
One
it's
More
not.
Time. We talked about Baby One More Time.
Baby
had bonus
One More
tracks.
Time had bonus tracks.
But the difference between that one and this one is
Ellipses.
that Baby One More Time had bonus tracks because of
Ellipses.
the different marketing or different
Sure.
markets where one had an extra song, someone else had whatever. This one was released as it was, and then Amazon later had another one, and then later at some point they put an acoustic song at the end. So I want to put forth the question, do the bonus tracks fit on this album? For those of you who listen to it digitally, do the bonus tracks fit anywhere on the album? Jason gives a thumbs down.
I'm a hard no,
Okay.
and I'll go ahead and because it leads to my later. Actually, no, I'll hold off.
Okay.
Hold off.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well, my 2 least favorite were the bonus tracks, so I would say no.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm a hard yes. I didn't even know that there were bonus tracks. Because I listened to it on the Spotify, so I wasn't privy to it. So I just
Okay.
listened to it, and it seemed to flow appropriately. So, oh.
Interesting. Yeah. So Spotify has the whole album and the bonus tracks. So Terminals, I also think Terminals came later, like because Matt Thiessen produced or co-produced Owl City's debut album, Ocean Eyes, and so that's when they started writing together. So Fireflies is co-written by him, and then I think that's when Terminals came out. And then Where Do I Go From Here? Obviously, we said earlier was a B-side from the previous album. But yeah, I would agree with Dan and Jason to an extent, and also with Steven in the sense that Terminals doesn't fit whatsoever. Like it's the same like time frame, but it doesn't relate to the album. But Where Do I Go From Here? I think lyrically can fit in this album because it's coming from, again, a breakup. He didn't write the song when they broke up. This was before that. But like leaving may not be coming home. Where do I go from here? Like, I think that spirit of the song fits the album, even though it may not be musically. So I'm kind of in the middle there. So, okay. So going into faves now, what are our favorite tracks from this album?
Do we want to end with favorites? Start with least faves, end with faves?
Oh,
sure. But I'm gonna caveat it. So you already said that your least favorites were the bonus tracks from the main album.
I said that for sure.
Okay. So Dan said that from the main album. Are there any least favorites?
Well, because I didn't get into it because I was saving it. This was what I was saving. My least favorite was Terminals.
Mm-hmm.
And my hot take is I am not a fan of Owl City in the slightest.
Oh,
so
man.
Really?
Cannot get around it. So
Man,
all
Dan,
of you
you should
Owl
put,
City fans, cool. I'm glad that you're having a good time.
yeah.
But for
Man,
me,
you would not believe your eyes.
Dan, for
Not
your favorite
believable.
album, you should do an Owl City album just to,
No,
just to spite.
it'd be great.
As much as they were a part of
I'm
my
coming in
childhood, I
ripping,
couldn't.
I'll come in ripping, bro.
Oh, man.
But
Who needs punk.org or whatever?
If you listen to Owl City and it's a song that Thiessen has co-produced, he actually sings on those. And
Yes.
It wasn't until I got into Relient K that I realized, oh, Matt Thiessen, Owl City doesn't sing this whole thing.
Let's send Jason a playlist that's just those songs.
what a time.
Greatest hits.
I don't know. I think probably Over It would be my least favorite from the main track. And I think it's just that it didn't stand out to me like some of the other ones. I think
For
that's
sure.
more of it. Because I think this album, like I don't, outside of the bonus tracks, I don't think like any of the songs were like not needed.
Yeah.
Like I think they all get to what needed to be done for this album. Like it was a really well planned and produced album minus the bonus tracks.
For sure. I think that's fair. Over It's kind of like a little dip in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Steven.
So, the least favorites are definitely gonna be harder for me because I really liked this album and I was grooving the whole way through.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a bad song that I was like, I'm not digging this one, but I guess the one that I would probably listen to the least or come back to the least is Candlelight.
Okay.
It's a bit too I don't know, it's a bit too positive for me. I mean it's a love song and all of that, and I think the lyrics again really hit home, like he's the metaphors and stuff that he uses. But I would probably just listen to the other ones more.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to agree with that author from punk.com, but Candlelight didn't do it for me.
Man. Interesting about that one, that's the only one on the album that was co-written by the other Matt, Hoops, and that was about his then wife at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
My
it like
wife.
kind of fits with the rest of the album. It's also the one that like obviously like a love song.
Yeah.
But cool. All right. I can take that.
I
Don't take any of this personally, Jarrett. We love you,
You didn't write the
no matter what happens.
yeah.
I did not write this album.
I wish I
and,
like it.
and Jarrett, you knew going into this that we would have least favorite songs.
Oh, yeah.
Of
Oh,
one
yeah.
of your favorite albums.
Oh yeah, I know.
It was gonna happen. Okay, so my least favorite. I'm with Jason on Over It. It kind of feels out of place.
You're just kind of over it.
I'm not. I'm over it, man. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I knew that was
Outside
coming.
of the bonus tracks, it just kind of, you could probably loop those three together, and it's like, here,
Yeah.
go to another album that it would fit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because even like I think some of the intros and outros, if you just listen to them by themselves, it's like, okay, not super great, but if you listen to it congruently, those then make sense.
Yeah.
Even
They
even
intro and outro their tracks well.
super well. Even like Baby, I was like, oh, maybe I don't like Baby so much. And then as we've been recording, I've listened to it and I'm like, I kind of like it because I know what comes next.
Baby grew on you.
Yeah.
I knew a guy who when he illegally downloaded this album, and apparently it was like a few years later. So they also did a covers album where they covered "Baby" by Justin Bieber. So when he illegally downloaded this album, it
What's
wasn't.
the statute of limitations on illegally downloading?
I don't know.
Napster?
But when he did it, it wasn't the Baby that's actually on the album. It was Justin Bieber's Baby.
That's funny.
Babies all look the same when they're that age, though.
You get out of Savannah and it's just like, oh man.
Jared, I'm really interested to hear your least favorite song, Jared. It's going to be hard for you.
Yeah. So it is really hard, but I agree with Dan and Jason. Over It, like once you get to Over It, like
Over
it's
it.
yeah. I mean, it really is a dip in the middle. But it really is a dip in the middle. I think Thiessen has described this as like his or like the Daniel Powder Bad Day song, like that same kind of feel, with like the piano drivenness of it. But like for me, it's not like, it's somewhat catchy, but once I always forget that song exists when I listen to this album. Like I'll like, listen to it and then go away and then come back to it. Oh yeah, Over It's on this one.
That's why you always notice something new when you listen to it again, because you
too.
forgot about Over It.
I forgot the song existed. Yeah. Cool. All right. So now let's get into our favorites. I'm going to start with Jason.
My favorite is going to be Savannah. Big fan of that back, like kind of rhythm guitar chunking.
Yeah.
I think it's just vibey, and I don't know, that song was probably the most my vibe of the whole one. But that and Forget Not Slow Down kind of roll together, not similarly, but like top of my tracks from this one. But I'm going with Savannah
For sure.
Solid.
Alrighty, Dan.
Well, so I'm between three. I've got my answer. The three that I was between was Savannah, Candlelight, and I kind of tied in This Is the End and If You Want It.
Oh yeah.
Together.
Yeah, you can tie those together.
Because they're the same song, just a
Split in
different. Well, it's a different question.
Yeah.
The first one is this the end? And then, if you want it, is do you really like? If you really want this. This is, and it's a totally different question that's being answered here.
For sure.
But I gotta go with Candlelight.
Wow.
I just
you and Beans.
first listen, I just off the first riff, I just and the melody just it hit me in my soul.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Steve-O.
isn't the clock in that as well?
Sorry.
Jason,
So,
wasn't the glockenspiel in Candlelight?
there is a little bit of it. It's not a ton, but it's in there.
Is there a baseball bat?
Probably.
Maybe somewhere.
Well, I'd probably say my favorite is Over It. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I was about to walk out.
No. No, but if I'm being honest, Savannah would be my favorite, just because the intro riff is irresistible.
Yeah.
It's super groovy and catchy. But if I'm being dishonest and I give you my second favorite one, I would probably no, probably part of it.
Which part?
Okay.
The baseball bat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, but the lyrics stuck out for me in that one, as I said at the
Nice.
top of the show.
Well, that's a good segue into my favorite, which is part of it. Because
Which part of it?
The lyrics and the bass tone.
It was funny the second time.
So, again, if a nightmare ever does unfold, perspective is a lovely hand to hold. Has like been tattooed on my heart for a while, which is also why
tattooed on your face.
When did you get a tattoo?
You had to be there. But that's also why I knew when you said nightmare like a few minutes ago, like what that line was, because it's my favorite one. So
yeah, great minds think the lyrics are cool together.
Yeah. Well, we'll add those to our favorites playlist. That's on Spotify. Okay, so now would normally come the part where we would rank the album. But considering this isn't on the list, I think it's probably just going to be best if we would say, if we were to rank it, where this would be on the list. But when
it's
I
fair
actually
to the other albums.
won't officially be ranked.
Yeah.
So let's start with Steven. Where would you put this?
Based on the fact that I would definitely come back to this album way more than probably any of the albums that we've gone through so far, I'd probably put this one at the tippity top of the list.
Oh.
And that's based on just what I would listen to. It's like the Beatles are like the Mona Lisa, but I wouldn't want to look at the Mona Lisa all day. It's pretty boring.
That was a very honorable, slightly honorable and respectable way of saying that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Cool. All right, Dan.
I'm with Steven. This would go at the top for me, and it's based on it spoke to me. And I felt like this is one of the albums that like it was written for me. Some of the other ones I could say, I notice how this is musically and this is pretty cool and it's really, fun to listen to, but I don't relate to it. This one I do. And I would for sure put this at the top of the list if we were adding it to the bunch. Word.
All right, Jason, how about you?
All right, it's time for everybody hate Jason Day.
Oh, he's getting off the bandwagon.
Because it doesn't relate. I don't relate to it in the same way. I don't relate to it in the same way as y'all do. I love it. I love the album. I think if we're going on what Steven was saying of like how often I would listen to it, for my list, I would put it between Supernatural and Dangerous.
Okay.
But for where I would personally place it as album, I'd place it just below The Wall and above Baby One More Time.
Interesting.
So between Year One and 6?
What?
Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at Steven. Sorry.
I'm just happy
mine,
The Wall.
it's either between my
it's either fourth or sixth for him.
Yeah, it's either fourth or sixth.
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay. Gotcha.
But it's fourth for like how often I would listen to it. But I think like if we're placing it the way I place all the other albums, I'd place it sixth.
Okay. Ouch.
Yeah.
At least it's not seventh.
Take that.
Oh man. Well,
at least it's behind it's not ahead of The Wall.
Oh man. Well, hey, let me jump back on the bandwagon because obviously I'm going to put this on number 1. Again, like agree with everything that's been said. Like relates to me. I love it musically. Love the lyrics, and again, I would come back to it again and again. So, and I have, and I will continue to. Awesome. Well, hey, Steven, do you want to hit us with what is the next episode going to be?
Oh yeah. I've been preparing for this. I'm totally not caught off guard right now. Let's see. Okay, yeah, the next album that we are going to be doing is Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, baby.
Sweet.
All right.
And Steven, what do you have to say about that album right now?
Just always try your best to do